Welcome again to Bible Time. This is Tuesday, and we are starting tonight at Believers Fellowship our digital missions conference. I'm excited about that this year. Each evening, we're going to have a webinar featuring a different missionary or missionaries each night, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday nights at 7 o'clock. It'll be a short webinar. You'll be able to see and hear from our different missionaries, and what a great way, what a great opportunity for you and your family to gather around and just be encouraged by what the Lord is doing through our missionaries and their ministries around the world. So I want to encourage you, if you haven't done so yet, to go to our webpage and sign up so that you can be a part of that and participate in that. Today in Bible Time, we come to a significant turning point. We come to 2 Samuel. And as we start 2 Samuel, I just want to give you kind of an overview here of what's going to be happening in this book. And at this point now, David becomes the main character. Samuel has died, Saul has died, David now is the main character. And what you're going to see in chapters 1 through 10 are the triumphs of David. He becomes first recognized as the king of Judah and eventually the king over all Israel. He establishes his capital in Jerusalem. And the Lord makes a covenant with David, a very important covenant, important for you and me, that's for sure. We're going to see about that. That's going to be covered in the first 10 chapters. Then chapter 11, we go from the triumphs of David to the transgressions of David. In chapter 11, we're going to read about David's sins, a sin of adultery with Bathsheba and the sin of murder, basically, of Bathsheba's husband Uriah. And then that's a significant turning point in David's life, because the rest of the book, chapter 12 through 24, is going to talk about the troubles of David. Troubles within his kingdom, troubles within his own family. And so it goes from the triumphs in the first 10 chapters to the transgressions in chapter 11 to the troubles from 12 to 24. That's what we're going to see in 2 Samuel. And it starts off with David getting the report of the death of Saul here in chapter 1. The Amalekite comes and tells David of the death of Saul, except he embellishes the story. I mean, we know from the previous chapter, chapter 31, we know how Saul died. He committed suicide. That's confirmed for us in 1 Chronicles chapter 10. But this Amalekite, who was probably not a member of Saul's army. He's just like a scavenger who's out there after the war has ended, and he's going through the field and picking up what he can. And he happened to get there before the Philistines did, and so he's got the crown and the waistband that are signs of Saul's reign, what things that Saul would wear, the marks of a king. And he brings them to David, and he thinks that this is going to get him in good with David. Well, he greatly overestimated that, and he winds up losing his life as a result. And then David writes this song that is to be taught to Israel about the death of Saul and Jonathan. And you can see how much of our English language has been influenced by the English translation of the Bible, because 3 times in this song is that common expression, how the mighty have fallen. I mean, you'll read that. I mean, if a sports team gets upset by some little team, it's how the mighty have fallen. You'll hear that expression used frequently in common language. Well, it comes from the Bible, and you can see that when the Bible was translated into English, that had a big impact on our language, our vocabulary, even down to today. And then you see what happens. I mean, David goes to Hebron, and he's recognized there as the king over Judah. But Abner, who was related to Saul, sets up Ishbosheth, one of the sons who didn't die in the war, sets him up as king, which is really Abner manipulating things, so because he's got a lot of self-interest in this, and that leads to a time of war between Abner and Joab, the commander of David's army. So there's war between the family of Saul and the family of David for some time until things get sorted out. And Joab is the leader of David's army, and his brothers Abishai and Asahel are with him. And what you might not know is that those three guys are nephews of David. They're sons of Zeruiah. Zeruiah was David's sister. You'll see that in 1 Chronicles chapter 2. So these are David's nephews. Joab is not, you're going to find out, he's not the greatest guy around either. But he's a good warrior, and we read about an initial battle in which Asahel loses his life. And so that's what these first couple of chapters are about. I just want to point out a few things. And one is David, he's been anointed king. Now he's going to be recognized as king. But yet he showed great honor to Saul. He grieved over the death of Saul. He didn't take any joy in the death of a man who was an enemy to David. He shows great honor to the Lord's anointed. He shows great honor to the king. That's a lesson we could learn today as we think about the leaders over us. And are we going to honor them and respect them? Because according to Romans 13, they are where they are because God has placed them there. So that's a great lesson for us to learn. Also, it talks about the love between David and Jonathan. He says that their love was extraordinary, surpassing the love of women. And obviously, he's not necessarily comparing that to the love that a husband and a wife has. He's just talking about the strength of the friendship and the companionship and the love that Jonathan and David had for one another. Jonathan's love for David is a real demonstration of self-denying commitment. Jonathan, he knew that David was going to be king, not Jonathan. And yet he loved David and he supported David. He was committed to David. And David's going to miss his friend, Jonathan. And so there you see the commitment between two like-minded men who thought big thoughts about God, men who boldly served God, and the friendship that they had between them. That's something to take note of. But also in chapter 2, at the beginning there in verse 1, you see David again inquiring of the Lord. And here's one thing I want you to take note of there. David is very specific in his requests of the Lord. I would encourage you to think about being specific in your prayers that you take to the Lord, because sometimes we're just so general with our prayer requests. How would we ever know if God answered that prayer or not? And so David, when you see him inquiring of the Lord, taking a request to the Lord, it's always a specific request that can receive a definite answer. And so that's an encouragement for you and me. So David is the focal point of 2 Samuel. We're going to learn about his triumphs, his transgressions, and his troubles. But we're also going to continue to learn about his character and hear how we see he honored Saul. He had a love for Jonathan, and he was specific in his prayer requests. But most of all, the star of this story is God himself, who's orchestrating all these things. He's bringing about the king with whom he's going to make a covenant, through whom the King of Kings is going to come into the world. And that's what we're rejoicing in today. So we're off to a good start here for 2 Samuel. I'll see you tomorrow for more Bible time.